My name is Carissa. I'm the founder and CEO of VVeg International, which is the leading vegan certification firm. We have global trademarks, and we actually have an exciting announcement. As of last week, we got to announce that we are the first vegan standard in the world and the only one in the world to have ISO 17065 accreditation, which means finally a vegan standard is recognized by the international community and the World Accreditation Forum. So that's a really big deal, because while there are other vegan marks out there and certification marks, we're the only one that has defined vegan where international standards recognize it, and we're the only certification body in the world that is vegan in scope to gain that kind of accreditation. So we're really excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer, and I used my law degree to pursue my passion, which is veganism and sustainability and trying to bring more light and love to this world through compassionate solutions and choices. And for me, defining a vegan standard and keeping vegan claims accountable is through VVeg is a way for me to merge my passion and my profession. So we certify brands, we certify fashion. So any brands that want to or are watching that want to certify, if they want to mention this show and fake, what we can do is we can discount the audit. We're offering a discounted audit up until September, end of September. And so what else? I was vegan from birth. My mom raised me vegan in a time when veganism was an odd thing to be. And I'm excited that it's turning into a campaign across all platforms and industry sectors, whether it's fashion, food, cosmetics, makeup, textiles, furniture, businesses. Veganism is the future, and it's the way we should all be.
Exactly. That should be like something normal. Everybody should be vegan. The opposite should be weird.
Yes, everyone should be vegan.
Yeah. So actually, as you say, you were able to give a definition to veganism. So what will be your definition of veganism?
Well, so veganism is generally defined, and I think that there's a general consensus of what it is. But to have a vegan standard means it's a robust standard that is quite long, that has an entire scheme in place of what is to be expected to actually certify vegan. But generally speaking, I think anyone who's vegan wants a product that is without animal exploitation. But how you define that and what is practical and what can actually be verified depends on the tests and checks and balances that you put the product through. So there's the paperwork process, which is ingredient verification, supplier research, and then there's the on-site inspection. Then there's the lab testing and the technical analysis to make sure that the claims are accountable and consistent with the written claims. And then there's the actual certification, which is granted by companies that pass the entire process. There's also a certifications committee that is in place. So if there's a gray area or there's something that needs to be further escalated or further defined, all these things are taken into account. So the standard that is for veganism is something that the consumer can trust. The consumer can know it was verified. The consumer can trust that, this vegan claim was independently verified by an organization that is accredited, and that their accreditation standards have been also accredited by international standardization organizations, which means that VVeg certified vegan products are following industry best practices. But overall speaking, what's a vegan definition? People define it differently. It's kind of like the Wild West. Some people say I'm vegan means I eat plant-based. Other people bring it to fashion. Other people bring it to their entire lifestyle. So anything that has a vegan claim, if it's a fashion product, I would say, well, that fashion product better not exploit animals. But there are people who will say I'm vegan, and they're not connecting whether or not the clothes that they're wearing or their handbag is also vegan too. And I do think that veganism is a process. We have our vegan standard, but veganism is a process in terms of people and who's a vegan heart. There's a lot of people that have a vegan heart that haven't actually made the connection to the food on their plate. That
Sure.
means they're a compassionate, ethical person, and they're on the path, and they can get there with the right information, and they're open to receive. So once they're open to receive and they make the connection to the food on their plate, it still might be a while before they realize when they go and buy their next car or they buy their next handbag that they shouldn't buy something with leather. It's an evolution. People don't always realize it. So I think it's important that brands like yours and that like you have on the show and that Be Veg, we're out there and we're helping make the connection for people in a positive way, in a cool way, in a hip way, where it's not a compromise. And you get to wear beautiful clothes and you get to have a beautiful car, or you get to have great furniture, or you get to taste delicious food. And it's vegan and nobody died and it's delicious, right, and it's better for you and it's better for the planet. So there's so much positive that can come with a vegan lifestyle. But to me, veganism is an ethical movement, and a vegan standard is an evolving standard. It's like an organism that is breathing, and the standard can always get more strict as time goes on to meet the world where the world is at. But it's very important to have standards in place and accountability in place to hold a vegan claim accountable to a singular standard that is globally recognized. So it's not all over the place. It's important that, your claim means something, our certification mark means something, your word means something, whether it's politics, relationships, labeling laws. We all want consumer transparency. We all want to know that we're receiving honest information. And we live in the age of information where access to information and the ability to have instant information is an expected standard. So that's what we're here to do, and further through laws and regulations, etc.
Yeah, and actually, I really feel like we need to redefine veganism, because this word many people don't really know. Should we focus just on animal? Does vegan means everything? And from what I believe with fake, we believe that veganism means compassionate lifestyle, that it's for the entire animal kingdom, so as well humans. That's why we try to bring as much intersectionality in the movement as possible. And I know you do as well. You do many events for Black Lives Matter movement, for example. That's the last one I saw.
Yeah, because it's a compassionate movement. I think that veganism is, you're a compassionate person. You're an empathetic person. That's why I say many people are vegan heart, but the food on their plate might not be vegan yet. They might be veg curious. They might think, oh, I should be plant-based. This is a better lifestyle for me. But they haven't actually, they haven't gotten there yet because they haven't really fully had to make the connection. But it's so important to realize that veganism is an ethical movement. It's a compassionate movement. So whether it's for the animals or Black Lives Matter or whatever the social injustice is, someone that stands against social injustice, that stands against speciesism, that stands against racism is vegan of heart. It's just a process of how it's like being religious. And how religious are you? Like, there's different sects of Judaism, right? There's the Reform, the Conservative, the Orthodox. Same thing with Catholicism. How much are you into your practice? People can identify with Judaism and not practice it at all. People could identify with veganism and really not practice it at all. But once they make the connection, they will.
Yeah, that's very well said. And so, so from your experience, I think it's important as well, so people realize that you not just create Be Veg because it's the trend to be vegan. You're really vegan from birth. And how, you were vegan, but when did you realize what veganism really means, and you want to not just be vegan, but be an activist and do something about it?
So I was born vegan and raised vegan. My mom had a vegan pregnancy, but when my parents got divorced when I was about 5 years old, my dad was not vegan. So I had to split my time between my mom and dad. So my mom raised me vegan for health reasons. She felt it was healthier. But when I was 5 and I had visitation back and forth, she said to me, "You're going to go to your dad's house. He's going to feed you X, Y, and Z. You do what you want. I can't control you, but this is what it is." And I made I remember the conversation. I remember the day. I made an ethical decision, a moral decision that day that I was going to take no part in the eating of animals. So I became an ethical vegan when I was about 5 years old. Even though I was raised vegan and born vegan into the lifestyle, I was lucky enough to be given the choice and the option. Whereas a lot of people are not given that choice. They're born into the culture of whatever culture they live in this world on planet Earth. And all of those cultures seem to have a meat-based diet, a lot of them. Most of them. And so I made the decision when I was very, very, very young. And I was very much aware that I was being made fun of and that it wasn't a popular decision. But I do believe, in my heart, it was a decision that I was always going to stick to. I don't think I was ever an activist. I think I was more of a subtlist. I wanted to have my own decisions. I wanted to be left alone to eat the food I ate. I was tired of people picking on me saying, "Ew, what's that?" And I'd have to say, "Oh, it's a tofu sandwich my mom made." And they'd be like, "Ew, what's tofu?" So tofu right now is a lot more well-known and mainstream. And so are all the non-dairy options. But all those options existed when I grew up as well. I remember the ice cream we ate was rice stream. I remember the tofuti cutie sandwiches. I mean, all that stuff existed. It's more known now. And so to answer your question, veganism is here to stay. It's here to stay. I don't know if I guess I don't even think I'm an activist now so much as I'm owning my truth, and I'm more confident and able to talk about it because I was so used to being made fun of that I was a closet case vegan. And now I get to say, you know what, this is what I am. This is how I was raised. I now have a business. I believe in this. This is my truth. And I think when we own our truth, we're most powerful in our message when our message is aligned with our truth, because then you have nothing to sell. You're just being real and authentic. And whatever you are in this world, if you're vegan, and that's your truth, you should, be you. Who are you? Be you. And being human is an evolution. So I think whatever your truth is, for me, it's veganism. For the audience here, most people are vegan. And there's a whole audience of people that are not quite vegan yet that really could be if they just dug deep within themselves and aligned with their truth and made the connection and dismissed any of that cognitive dissonance that we are trained to dismiss in order to continue to have the violence on our plate, or the violence in our fashion industry, or the violence in our furniture industry, or when you buy a car, etc. It is so ingrained in our culture, and it doesn't need to be. So it's wonderful that brands are now popping up literally around the world to change the direction of our factories and our facilities and our co-packing plants and our manufacturing houses and how clothes are made in fashion. There's so much to do, and it's just going to snowball. So this is not a trend. This is here to stay. And this is something that anyone who's investing in should invest in, because this is where we're going.
Exactly.
That I believe in.
Yeah. I always say this is not a trend, it's a revolution, and you should be a part of it. You want to be a leader, not a follower. So you need to be a part of this movement. That's actually what we did with Fake when we created the movement. We call it a movement because, like you say, the goal is way bigger than ego or money. So we all help each other to, when there's a new material that is coming up, we all help each other. We all give tips. Oh, you should use this type of vegan leather because it's more sustainable. You should use this. So yeah, we all help each other. That's why we're gonna grow and get strong.
Yes.
So what would you say to people who, let's say, they just became vegan, and because nowadays it's so easy now to be vegan, and you have the experience of living in a world when there's literally almost no vegan. So what would you say for those people who say, oh, it's too difficult, people make fun of me? Like, how would you inspire them to keep on doing it?
Well, they will be inspired to keep on doing it when they make the decision themselves that this is the only way to go. So for me, because I was raised vegan in a world when things really weren't vegan, it was not hard for me, because if I were at a restaurant, for example, my eyes went to the place on the menu of what I could eat. I swear I didn't even see the other stuff. It just wasn't an option. I blocked it out. So I think someone who's trying or veg curious, they're going to give into temptation. They're going to see the menu. They're going to remember what something tasted like or smelled like, and they might crave it. So it could be harder to give it up than it is for me that was born into it. But I do encourage people to try the other options and to be part of the demand, because the movement is happening, and these restaurants and these shops that are carrying fashion, ask for the vegan options, because they are now carrying things they did not carry 30 years ago when I went out to eat, such as the Beyond Meat, the Impossible Burgers, the other plant-based protein alternatives, the tofu. I mean, these restaurants are starting to carry it. And when they carry it, they cannot keep it in stock because people love it. They want it. There's a demand for it. So I think number one is for us to create the demand and continue to create the demand. So there's accessibility, because the more it's accessible, the easier it's going to be to turn into a plant-based world. And in order for our planet to survive, we must be a plant-based world. Now, what it's going to take to get somebody to make that decision and stick to it, it's going to depend on them. Some people become vegan because of the environment. So they may stick to the decisions, seeing the Amazon deforestation, worrying about our planet, our future, the future of our children and their children's children. So they may choose to be vegan for environmental reasons, and they may stick to it. Other people may be forced to become vegan for health reasons. Other people might choose to become vegan for health reasons because they realize that it's a healthier lifestyle. Other people might choose to become vegan because they actually feel an empathy and compassion for the animals. And then there's the whole spiritual component of things. Many people who are spiritual and on a path of meditation and yoga and compassion and loving kindness towards the world and others, they may not be vegan. But once they realize and make the connection that they are on this path of meditation and yoga and compassionate living, they may realize, you know what, I need a vegan lifestyle is my lifestyle. I'm also going to turn plant-based. So it's going to have to come from within for it to stick. I mean, how often do we hear of relationships of people getting together with someone who's a non-vegan, they turn vegan for the relationship, then they get out of the relationship, they're no longer vegan. So whatever the reason is, it's really important that the decision is based on conviction, because of something you believe in within you, which goes back to what I said earlier about owning your truth. Find your truth, find it inside of you, and then own it.
Really well said.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried any animal product?
Have I ever tried any animal product of food? No. But that's, what I was saying earlier, like there's different evolutions of this vegan phase. I would say I was always vegan in part because I was raised vegan. And when I had to make the decision of food on my plate, I immediately chose to have no part in that. Now, growing up, that does not mean that I made the connection to the shoes or the handbags that I wore until much later. Okay. And I think you justify it to yourself in that, well, there's enough leather out there, but it's a byproduct of the meat industry. They're not killing animals for the leather. It's so easy to just block it out. And fashion is something that is so mainstream that it really is. It's important that people like yourself and that the big brands also that are like the high-end luxury brands are starting to get into the no fur and the vegan options within their already animal product options, because it's raising the awareness and the consciousness. I mean, it's not until you see vegan brands and vegan fashion labeled as vegan that you realize, wait a minute, it might not be vegan. It's like people eating the food on their plate. They just aren't thinking about it. So I've never consumed meat. I was raised not eating dairy. I've never eaten meat, but have I had worn, something with leather in the past? I won't buy it now, but it's part of an evolution, I think, for people to wake up. It's part of being awake. And it's part of saying, I see the whole picture. And that's when you see the whole picture, I think that's when you're in alignment with the spiritual side of veganism and the choice to be an ethical vegan, because you understand the alignment of the planet, the environment, the health, the animals, and the spirituality and the interconnectedness of it all. And then you have to struggle with the other things like, okay, so you won't buy it anymore, but you have it in your closet. What do you do with it?
No.
You don't want to wear it because you don't want to promote it. You don't really want to throw it away because that's wasteful. So you're sitting there looking at it. Yeah,
there's many solutions, but it's yeah, it's a huge debate. If we start now, we will talk about it till tomorrow. But yeah, there's many ways you can donate as well. It's a way to keep on being compassionate. But yeah, when
Yeah.
the product is here already, it's more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's, it's all about raising the consciousness and the awareness. So once you raise consciousness, whether it's a menu at a restaurant, and you start realizing that you have all these options that are more ethical and compassionate, and you start choosing them, it snowballs. You'll start choosing more compassionate options. And same thing with fashion, same thing with makeup, anything. I would say it's really a process. And once you start being conscious, you can't not be conscious. But it's very easy to turn it off and say, that's not convenient to think about. I don't want to think about that right now. But once you wake up and you start being conscious, you cannot not be conscious anymore, because you're conscious. You woke up, you get it. So then you're going to start making more and more and more connections. So the key is to allow yourself to make the connections, allow yourself to do the discovery, and allow yourself to evolve into a better, more enlightened being, because you realize, and it doesn't mean you were less enlightened before, it just means you were less awake. You were less willing to allow the light in. But it doesn't mean you were less ethical before, because the reality is these unethical products are at our disposal way too easily. And it's not your fault. But what is your fault is, once you wake up, if you're going to then go spend your dollars on the products that are unethical, then you're voting for the unethical options. So get certified vegan by VVeg, because we track the entire assembly line, the supply chain. We keep everyone honest. And that also is a domino effect, because not only is it the main brand that you want vegan, you want the supply chain trace to be vegan. Because if the main brand wants to market vegan and one of their suppliers is not vegan, then that main brand is going to switch out that supplier. What does that mean? It means that supplier just lost a main account and a main buyer. So that supplier lost money, and it comes down to follow the money in the bottom line. So if the supplier loses money, they're going to switch their practices to consider being vegan, because they're going to want to be able to sell to parent brands who want to market vegan. So it is very important to look for certified vegan by VVeg products, because
that's
really do keep the supply chain accountable.
Yeah, have you ever find any vegan people say that it's vegan, vegan products that it's actually not vegan?
Yeah, that happens all the time. That's why I'm saying it's so important to look for vegan claims that are certified, verified, accredited. And right now, we're the only organization that does that, that is accredited under the ISO international standards. But you absolutely want to see a verified vegan claim, because those that are making the brands have all the right intentions, but they're not researching the supply chain, and it's not their job to research the supply chain and keep the suppliers accountable. And consumers want trust in a brand, right? So trust in a brand comes from certifications, just like there are certifications for, like I went to law school, and I passed the bar in New York, Florida, and DC. Those are badges of approval on my resume. That's credibility for me when I go to court. So it's the same thing with brand awareness. When you, I guess it's slow to load there. When you buy a product, you want to know whether it's ethical, it's sustainable, it's vegan, it's plant-based. You want to know it's safe, that there's vegan quality assurance. And the statistics say that whether you're vegan or not, 80% of consumers, all things being equal, if they have two brands in front of them where all things are equal, one of them has an ethical mark or vegan label that's certified and the other one does not, they will choose the vegan label. So that's our veg alcohol program. We have 2 trademarks globally. It's not really relevant to fashion, but we have 2 trademarks that are global. And can you go up to the top? That's Christy Brinkley. Let's see if it's loading. It's not loading at the top, huh?
Wait, let me refresh the page. I think it's my Wi-Fi was a little.
That's our logo there. That's loading, but there it is. So, that's the vegan product global trademark there. The black and white one. It's ISO accredited, and
So if a brand wants to be certified, you just come here, click on apply for certification.
Yeah, right. And you can contact us for special pricing. It's, there's an audit fee, there's a certification fee. As I said, if you mention fake, we'll give you a discount on the audit fee. But there's different layers of certification as well. It's whether or not you're a brand owner, whether or not you're a private label, whether or not you're a co-packer, a manufacturing facility. All of that matters in how the entire process of testing and analysis and audits are carried out to ensure that it's reliable, dependable, honest, and transparent for the consumer.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of information, so everybody should go check it out. And you're here.
Yes, that's me.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Any words before we end this live? Anything to inspire people? If you want to share, you do so many things. You were talking about the spiritual aspect of veganism. Last week, I saw one of your show, and I loved it. Actually, it was about spirituality and veganism. So, if someone wants to watch one of these shows, like where they can find you.
So that show's on Jane Unchained News Network. It's called The Laws That Matter. I'm one of the resident contributors, legal analyst, and I'm her anchor for that show. And so I'm a lawyer, and I have done a lot with my legal career. As a prosecutor, I passed the bar, like I said, New York, Florida, DC, went to law school at Berkeley, worked at a top law firm doing securities litigation, Greenberg Traurig. It's a top 5 global firm before I started my own firm about 8 years ago. So I am a serious lawyer. I've done a lot of television, legal expert on Nancy Grace, Dr. Drew, Fox, CNN, the networks. But I shifted when I realized, enough of this working within the law that I was trained to practice, that human law is an intended version of these higher laws. And to me, veganism needs to be an area of law, hence BVeg. And to me, the laws that matter are these spiritual laws. And spirituality is an entire reason to become vegan and plant-based. And I think it's an unexplored reason. We hear about the 3 pillars more than the 4th pillar. And the 3 pillars are the animals, the environment, and health. But spirituality is the main thing. So on that show, I try to bring on guests that are vegan, because it is a plant-based network. It's, Jane Unchained News Network for the voiceless. So it's for the animals. But vegans who have brought spirituality and spiritual food for thought, so to speak, to their veganism and their teachings. So I really am using the show to teach the laws that matter, because that's the universal laws, the spiritual laws. And I think that that's also vegan law. And that's not to say that we don't cover real legal news, because we do. So wet markets, I filed a petition for rulemaking to try to shut them down in New York. My law firm did that on behalf of BVeg. So we absolutely are covering regular legal news. So wet markets or slaughterhouse workers that are having their civil rights stripped of them, all that stuff is covered. But I really try to keep the show inspirational, because that's what we need. We need spiritual food for thought. We need to fill our souls with positive energy. And that means mental energy. That means positive thought. And that means good food. So it's all connected. And then we should wear, same thing, fashion that is fashionably friendly and no cruelty.
Exactly. And everybody always agreed that about the law of attraction, that when you spread positivity comes to you. And I think it's the same with food and what you wear. And so, So
yes, it is. It's all energy. So, every piece of clothes you wear starts from a microscopic fabric. And every food starts from some microscopic DNA of something. Right. And that all affects our body and our own DNA. So It's all connected.
Thank you so much. So if someone wants to follow you, should they follow you, Carissa Crans, BVeg, Laws That Matter? What is
all of it.
All of it. Okay.
BVeg is our social media handles are @BevVeg. So BEVVEG. That's our consistent social media handle across all platforms. It's the one we could get. We are bveg.com though, @Laws That Matter. You'll get some spiritual, inspirational food for thought there. And Carissa Kranz is my personal. So follow all of it. It's all related. Laws That Matter is related to Be Veg. And this is me owning my truth. So
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and actually we are live as well on Jane Unchained, and in 10 minutes we will have Vanessa Marceau doing a live for lunch break live. So we were talking about how good it is for the spirituality, for your soul, for your body, vegan food. So in 10 minutes you can check it out, a new recipe, 100% vegan.
Yes, and Vanessa is certified vegan with Be Veg, her business.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Oh,
so
nice.
we came full circle.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we will be here next week with another guest. I forgot who, but yeah. See you next week.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.